briefly describe us your journey from your school days to joining IISER Bhopal as a faculty, and what were some of the key turning points in your path?
Okay. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you and all members of the Chemistry Club for inviting me to share my research journey. So I was born in Kolkata and brought up in different parts of West Bengal. So I did my schooling from a very reputed school in West Bengal. It's run by the Ramakrishna Mission and it's located in Narendrapur near Kolkata. So at that time it was in the suburbs of Kolkata and it's a very nice rural location, just like IISER Bhopal is. So I went there and there like I was doing very well. So like around the time when you start deciding like what you want to be in the future. So around like say 8th or 9th grade, I was a bit confused. So I was not sure what I wanted to do. So in school, I used to like everything. So honestly, history and geography, like the social sciences, they were my favorite subject. Because at that time, you were not exposed to that much of pure science. So it's more like from a fact kind of things that you learn in your school. So I was in this exploration phase. I was trying to figure out what I really like. And I was actually very interested in biology, in understanding how our human bodies work, how drugs work, and those kind of things. However, like the biology course, it was not very illuminating. So I was not very clear about a lot of things like, for example, when we studied that ATP is the energy currency of the cell. So I really didn't understand what that meant. Okay, so I was still trying to understand. Then around class 8th, we had chemistry as a separate subject. So at that time, there was a lot of phobia around chemistry. So people used to say that there are big formulas and you have to memorize a lot, and there is just all about colors and smells and stuff like that. And initially, when we started studying chemistry, I found that it was sort of true. I mean, I used to score good marks, but the thing is that I didn't find it very exciting or charming. Okay. So anyway, I was carrying on like that. So one of the very nice things about our school was, and it was a huge campus, it was 250-acre campus, and there was a college campus adjacent to the school campus as well. And we had this huge college library which we were given access to even as school students. So I used to go to the college library and just open some advanced books. So one day I decided that let's see what the advanced version of chemistry is. And then I opened an organic chemistry book, and there I saw that like the formulas were huge. Yeah. So in the 8th standard, we were already not very happy with the formulas of say alum or say K2Cr27 or like balancing the equations. And then I saw that the formulas were just crazy. And then I thought that okay, this must be one of the most boring subjects in the world. And then next to the organic chemistry book, there was a biochemistry book, and the formulas were even crazier. So I thought that the biochemistry should be the worst subject in the world. So anyway, sometimes we feel some strange attraction towards things that we don't like. So I ended up issuing the biochemistry book, and I went back home and I started reading it. Now when I started reading it, I realized that all these strange formulas that were there, they were nothing but some sort of a language. And if I know how to read that language, I can actually get to the heart of the question that I had in my mind, that how does biology function? Okay, so then after spending some time with that book, I became really fascinated, and I realized that this is the key to understanding biology. Okay, so then I like started reading more and more chemistry books, and one of the books that really helped me to get excited about chemistry is a book written by Professor C.N.R. Rao, Understanding Chemistry. He wrote it for mainly school students. Okay, so that way then came the plus 2 stage, like when we have to decide like which path you want to go. So at that time, like I guess the situation is a bit different now. When I was in school, then there were only 2 choices, like either you go to engineering or you go to medicine. And if you don't get anything, then you go to basic sciences and other things. So of course, like because I had some interest in biology, my teachers and my family, they expected that I will become a doctor, I will clear the MBBS entrance exam. So I started studying for MBBS entrance exams. And I was the topper in my school, so there was a lot of expectations from my teachers and my family and families of my friends. So I started like working towards that, but soon I realized that I was not really enjoying that, and I didn't see the point whether like I really want to become a doctor. I mean, I didn't see how I will fit into that. Okay, so when I was having this kind of a thought, like is this the right career choice for me, then suddenly one good opportunity opened up. So I believe from that year itself, the KVPI exam or the KVPI fellowship that started. So then some people from my batch, they took the exam, and I took the exam as well. And I found that it's a very beautiful exam. It's all about concepts, Okay, nothing about rote learning or learning tricks to crack the exam. The interview was splendid. So I got the fellowship, and that gave me a lot of support to pursue basic science. Okay, so there was, of course, there was a stipend, but also there was direct admission to many institutes, and then there were opportunity to do research projects every summer. So I found that that was a very fantastic opportunity, and I thought that I shouldn't give it up. Okay, so then like once the time came for different competitive exams, then I knew that at this point that I was not going to study engineering or medicine. But anyway, I took the exams very seriously, and something very interesting happened. So I ended up becoming the topper of my state in the medical entrance exams. So then, of course, like you know that like the TV channels come, and I was on TV, and all interviews were taken, and I went there and said that no, I was going to study chemistry. Okay, so that created quite a bit of like a sensation. Like so, all people were discussing about that. So that became like a thing. And anyway, it was not very easy for me because most people were very unsupportive of that. So when some of people around me, they say that, oh, you will not get anything to eat if you study science. Okay, so why are you just leaving this great opportunity? So anyway, I knew that this is what I really wanted to do. So then I went to IIT Kharagpur to study chemistry. That was an integrated MSc program. And there we started in a very interdisciplinary manner. So in IITs, you probably know that you need to study engineering in the first year and also most of the second year. So like here at IISER, you study basic sciences for the first 2 years before getting into majors. So there we had to study different branches of engineering. So it was not very easy for me to study engineering because I was not very prepared for that. But anyway, in retrospect, I think that gave me a very nice view of what things are there and made me acquainted with many different things in a fundamental way. Okay, so then another thing I really liked about IITs is that there you can do a minor in a subject of your choice.
Yes.
So by the time I was in third year, I decided that I will do a minor in biotechnology. So that's a place where I had a sufficient exposure to biological subjects, and particularly which are focused on engineering. And then because I was a KFI fellow, I got an opportunity to do internships every summer at reputed institutes like IISc and IISER. And then in my third year, I was selected as a Corona Scholar, and I had an internship in the US at the University of Minnesota. And then the next year I went to France for another internship. So that way I really was able to pursue the path which I wanted to pursue. Okay, and then for my PhD I went to the University of California in San Diego. So that was very nice and productive 6 years of my life. So there I worked with Dr. Neil Devraj, he was my PhD advisor. So there I worked on primarily in chemical biology, and also towards the later part of my PhD I got more into soft matter physics, and that experience ultimately led me to do a postdoc in the area of biophysics during my postdoc at Stanford University, where I worked under Professor Stephen Boxer. And then since last year I am a faculty at IISER Bhopal, and it has been a wonderful journey so far.
So why did you join IISER Bhopal? Like, what are the things that you like about Bhopal and IISER Bhopal and Bhopal city itself?
Okay, that's a great question. So before I came for interviewing at IISER Bhopal, I never came to this part of the country, and I had very little idea about Bhopal or say Madhya Pradesh or Central India in general. So when I came here, it was March, the weather was very nice, and at that time I got to spend almost a week in the city because I was participating in the Young Investigator meeting. So I found that the city was really beautiful. Like there are huge lakes, it's the city of lakes, and there are like small hills. There are many historic places. The roads are very clean. I believe it's the cleanest state capital in the country according to the yearly surveys. So anyway, I found that and the pollution was quite low. So overall it was a very scenic city where the infrastructure was pretty nice. And then the IISER Bhopal campus, same way, I found that it's a very nicely constructed and well-maintained campus. The buildings were very nicely maintained. The facilities inside the departments were fantastic. And particularly what I really liked was the chemistry department here was very strong, and there was a very strong focus on chemical biology, and the different facilities and different kinds of expertise that I was looking for in the department. That really excited me. And then when I gave my talk, I found very good questions from the student audience, which also really motivated me to join here.
I remember Camp Club conducted your talk.
Yes, that was,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Yes.
So sir, for students who are new to our campus, like
Yes.
the first years, could you describe your research area and what make this research area so interesting and fascinating?
Okay. Our lab is called the Chemical Synthetic Biology Lab, and I will tell you what the main underlying theme of our lab is. So we want to understand what is life in the language of chemistry and what makes life different from non-living matter. Okay. To explain this better, I will tell you one quote by Richard Feynman. So he said, "What I cannot create, I do not understand." Okay. So it's a burning question in the mind of everybody, even say a class 5 or 6 student just starts learning about science. Is probably wondering that why a dog or a cat is living, but why a table or a chair is not living. Right? So it's a very deep question, but if you really have to address this question, then like what Feynman said, if you can build something lifelike inside a lab, then you unlock the mystery that's behind this entity that we call as life. Okay, so this was always a very big question, but I think scientists started working on this very seriously since the past 15 years or so. Okay, so they started taking different building blocks of life, like say proteins and nucleic acids and carbohydrates and lipids, and started putting them together in a way that some complex structure emerges, which shows some of the basic features of life, such as presence of compartment, presence of metabolic reactions, ability to grow and divide, and ultimately evolve into different forms of life. So this is the idea that is behind synthetic biology. Now, me being trained as a chemist, we are taking the approach of a chemist. We are using different chemical parts to synthesize life. That's why we call our research as chemical synthetic biology. Okay. So coming to the later part of your question, so why this is so exciting, okay, and what can come out of this? So first of all, it addresses one of the most fundamental questions in science, that what is life and how it is different from non-living matter. Now the thing is that to synthesize an artificial cell in a lab, we often bring together things which probably have not met before. Like we are bringing a protein A and we are making it sit next to some chemical B, and probably there were no encounters between these two before. And then we are using some device to measure their interactions or measure their properties. Now what happens is that when you bring together all these different things which never met before, then we start discovering new phenomena, we start making new materials, we start discovering new reactions. So all these things can have applications in many other fields. I mean, I will, if you want, I can give you some examples, but maybe before that we discuss a few other things as well.
If you can give us some examples.
Yeah, so, okay. So, like one nice example which I can mention from our own research. So, I have worked with many kinds of lipid materials. Okay. So, while trying to make these artificial cell compartments, we had to design lipid compartments which have some very unique properties. Okay. So later we found that the same kind of lipid materials, they can be used for drug delivery, or they can be used to stabilize membrane proteins, which can be used for their fundamental studies. Okay. So that sort of discovery can come out. Or I also have discovered chemical reactions which were not previously known, because I was trying to make an artificial cell by putting together things which were not done in a way that is done in nature. Okay. So it opens up avenues for discovery of new things.
Could you just let us know about some of the eureka moments in your research career? What are some of the eureka moments where an experiment that you were thinking that it will not work, it works suddenly, or you discovered something that was unexpected?
Okay. So like I told you, this making artificial cells, that's already something that is very much say curiosity driven. Like we don't know how an artificial cell is supposed to look like, so we frame the question and we try to answer this question as well. Okay, so once I was working, I was trying to make some artificial cells which resemble living cells in some very basic way, in the sense that it will have some kind of a plasma membrane-like compartment, and then inside some complex reactions such as DNA replication will take place. So what I was doing for this experiment is that I took some lipid molecules and I mixed it with an enzyme that we brought from a company. Okay, and then what happened is that, like when we mix them together, we found that instead of getting these membranes, we were getting some very big spherical blob-like things. Okay, now they had some very interesting properties, like they were able to engulf a lot of proteins that otherwise it's not possible for, say, a lipid vesicle. Okay, and then they showed different kinds of interesting cell-like fusion behaviors. So I was watching them under the microscope and I got very curious, and but I didn't have an idea of like where that was coming from. So thankfully, what happened is that like the company where we bought the enzyme from, so it listed all the components that were present in that kit. So I was very curious and I started taking one component or mixture of one or two or three components, and ultimately I found that I identified which component in that kit was responsible for forming those blob-like spherical droplets. Okay, so then once I had the answer, so then I started, I realized that it was a very novel find. So those blobs, we then started calling them as sponge droplets. Okay, so I have a 3D model of this. So it's a 3D printed model. So you can see that it's a sphere, but the sphere is porous. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so any kind of, and the surface that you are seeing, these are the lipid binders. And you will learn in many places in chemistry that porous materials have a lot of applications. So for example, this year's Nobel Prize, like, which was given to MOF, like metal organic framework. So those are also porous materials. So you can think of it as a biological equivalent or soft equivalent of MOF. So this is a very porous structure. That means a lot of things can fit inside. Okay, so if you want to fill it with drug, there is a lot of space that is available inside. You want to fill it with some therapeutic protein, a lot of space is inside. And also, like, why we were found it useful for these artificial cells is that so for mimicking organelles like endoplasmic reticulum or the Golgi apparatus, which are very rich in membranes like this, there was no good model system. So we found that those kind of organelles can be mimicked very nicely with these sponge droplets. So from there, we then started working on it, and it really became a huge body of work for my PhD. So half of my PhD just came out of that thing that we found from that kit. Okay, and by the way, the compound that we found in the kit is a very commonly available chemical, very cheap chemical. So it really made our life easy that we didn't find something very exotic that is hard to find. So that's and that way many other people have followed up my work from my same group or also other groups. And when I started as an independent researcher, so we decided to investigate these sponge droplets in much more detail, like focus on their chemistries and then focus on multiple applications of this. And that's a major part of my lab is working on now.
So sir, now we are moving towards some of the most common or asked questions among undergrads. So could you just let us know what are the different paths and career paths a student can get successful, or he can adopt from chemistry and get successful in their life?
So chemistry, like if you are getting trained as a chemist or if you are getting a degree in chemistry, then one major advantage is that like chemistry is in the middle of all kinds of sciences. So chemistry is sometimes referred to as the central science.
Yes.
Because we learn chemistry, we derive the concepts of chemistry from physics, and we apply chemistry to biological sciences or material sciences and many other fields. So in that sense, chemistry is bridging between a lot of disciplines. So if you are trained as a chemist, then you automatically have the experience with many kinds of materials which have applications in say physical sciences or in biological sciences. So any kind of career where you can apply your knowledge, maybe as a medicinal chemist or as someone who designs electric batteries, or someone who is just who works on optimizing chemical reactions for the industry. So all those roles of scientists are possible if you study chemistry. Then of course there is the area of research, like where you pursue research in a university like environment or say in a research institute. So that needs quite an extensive training after finishing the college. Like typically somewhere between 5 to 10 years of training are needed to become a scientist who is leading a research group, either in the academia or in the industry. And other than these research focused careers, there are many other options where someone can go into. So I can tell you from the examples of many of my colleagues and friends who have pursued such a career. So these days, because of the internet, like careers in science communication and science art and science illustration, these are becoming very popular. Okay, so we have so many websites and so many resources of knowledge, so many ways of disseminating scientific knowledge. So if you have those skills, if you are good in speaking, if you are good in art, if you are good in writing, so these are very good career options right now. Then there are several options that go into intellectual property, because like once we discover something, we need to get it patented.
Yes.
And someone who has deep knowledge of that subject can only judge the merit of that invention. So many scientists or many people who are trained in the basic sciences, they go into the intellectual property field. Then there is the area of science policy. So any kind of science has a huge impact on human life and environment and on economy. So it's a task of well-trained scientists to shape the policy on the basis of which a government will function. Okay, so I can give the example of one of my batchmates from PhD. He's a very, very good scientist. I mean, he published a lot of very good papers, and someone will simply guess that he will pursue further research, but he chose a very nice path. So he chose to join some think tanks which are related to climate change. Okay, so he came back to India from San Diego, and he's working at a very good position where he is meeting diplomats and ministers all the time. So you can also get into very attractive paths like this after studying chemistry. Okay, and another thing that I will strongly encourage the students today, that we are still heavily reliant on companies and industries which are placed in, say, USA or Germany or Japan. So we need to work hard to transform your ideas into industry-ready solutions. Okay, so start your company, be entrepreneurs. Okay, you can take inspiration from, say, Indian scientists like Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, so who was the first chemistry turned entrepreneur of our country. Okay, so we need more Acharya BCAs in today's time.
So we know that chemical biology lies at the interface of chemistry, biology, medicine, and computational things are there. So what are the skills that students should develop to get successful in this field?
Okay, so you have rightly mentioned that chemical biology is a very interdisciplinary field, and it's not just limited to chemistry or biology. There are also components of many other disciplines in it. So in a sense, one has to be a jack of all trades. And maybe if you want to be master of all of them, that is fine, that is up to you. But you definitely have to be a jack of many trades to excel in chemical biology. So what are some of the things that are absolutely essential to excel or to succeed as a chemical biologist? So first of all, it's chemical biology is the application of chemistry in biology. Okay, so although biochemistry comes later, so chemical biology is more chemistry. Okay, so definitely a good base in organic chemistry particularly is absolutely important. And then after that, a good knowledge of biochemistry, at least undergraduate level, that is essential to know what kind of systems I'm going to apply my chemistry on. And then beyond that, one has to have a good understanding of what kind of problems are out there. So if you are planning to use chemical biology to track a certain disease, or you are trying to find a diagnostic, or if you are trying to find a cure for a specific disease, you need good understanding of human physiology and many things on from medical sciences. Okay, and then apart from that, like what kind of tools you have to use. So you have to be good at making molecules. You have to be good at biochemical and molecular biology techniques. Then different kinds of material characterization techniques are needed. Like for example, like things that are used to measure say viscosity, or say like what should I say, like the periodic properties, like X-ray based methods. So many methods are needed in parallel to your core chemistry and biology skills. Then other than that, microscopy is a very important skill that is needed for chemical biology. So microscopy takes a lot of experience to master. So it is like driving a car. So you need to have a good coordination between what you see and what your hands are doing. Okay, so microscopy is similar to that. Like you need to look at things inside the cells or inside an organisms once you're developing something with chemical biology. And then finally, you also need many ideas and concepts from physical chemistry, such as fluorescence, or say things about say different spectroscopic techniques. Yes, yeah. So it's a very multidisciplinary field, and recently with the advent of say big data, so that is also having a lot of impact on chemical biology research. So one such area is chemical biology, which uses a lot of mass spectrometry. So mass spectrometry generates a lot of data, and you need to be good at some kind of computational skills to be able to handle that kind of data and then extract the useful information out of it. Same thing with microscopy as well. So microscopy also needs a lot of computational handling.
So sir, from your experience, how can the chemical biology research can be translated from a lab to real world application, such as the drug discovery is there and many more applications are there?
Okay, so chemical biology is a very research heavy subject. It's exploring some of the frontier areas of biology using cutting edge tools from chemistry. Okay, so that means any new discovery in chemical biology has the potential to develop into some kind of applications, maybe a biotechnological application, maybe some kind of medicinal application. Okay, so I can share one example from from what one of my previous lab mates did. Okay, so in my PhD lab, so we were working on a particular reaction. The reaction is called native chemical ligation, and we were using that reaction to make these artificial cells. Okay, so one of my lab mates, he found that the same reaction can be used to carry out deparmitylation of proteins. So in many diseases, proteins are modified with a palmitic acid group. Now, if that can be reversed, then the disease state can also be altered. Like maybe it can be cured in some cases, or maybe it can be slowed down, something like that. So some reaction that was being used for artificial cell development, suddenly it found application in, or this, my lab mate, he saw the potential of being used for treating some diseases. So he really focused on that hard, and then he pursued it for several years. And then what happened, something remarkable, he found that actually it can be used to like go after many diseases, even certain kinds of cancers. So then he started a company in San Diego, which is called Palm Therapeutics, and that is now in the research stage. It is trying to develop different drug candidates. So that's how a company was born out of chemical biology research. Now, if you look at, like, hopefully you know the name of Caroline Bertozzi, who is probably one of the most famous chemical biologists, if not the most famous. So many of her students and trainees, they have started companies based on what they have discovered. Okay, so maybe it's some kind of a bioconjugation method, maybe some kind of diagnostic against tuberculosis. So many things can be done in the say in the translational space, like based on discoveries someone makes in chemical biology space.
So, like, last question that we have for you is, what one piece of advice you would like to give to IISER B students who have just started their career as in life sciences, or who are in third year, so as majors?
Okay, so first of all, like, I mean, it's very important that you make an informed choice before choosing your major, because that is probably going to have a big impact on your entire career, on your journey. So first, try to realize, like, what is your inner calling. Okay, so just don't choose a subject because you think that it is important, or everyone around you thinks that it is important. And anyway, in IISER you have this very rich interdisciplinary atmosphere. So even if you think that, okay, like I will probably I want to do chemistry, but everyone else is asking me to do biology or physics or math, don't do that. I mean, because even if you're a student in chemistry, you can still explore physics, chemistry, math, bio in different ways. But choosing your major, I think, which gives you the most exposure to a particular subject, that is very important. Then the next thing, what I said, like, we really need to do going to be the drivers of the economic growth of our country. Okay, so whatever you do, always keep the national interest in your mind. Like, whatever you do, you try to develop a product for our country, or if you go abroad for training, try to bring some skill to our country, which is very rare, and it's going to have a major impact. And then identify what are some of the cutting edge areas that are where a lot of interest lies. Okay, so these days you can guess that there is a lot of integration of artificial intelligence even in chemistry. If you look at the websites of top journals, like maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 papers will be some applications of artificial intelligence in predicting chemical reactions or designing chemical reaction strategies. Okay, so that's where a lot of a lot of effort is going to be there. Then climate change is a real possibility, and then we all need to come together to find robust strategies to counteract that. So that's where, if you put your brains, that will be a very good thing to pursue. And then things about say quantum materials, and then things will make us self-reliant on energy. Okay, like there is a lot of emphasis on using rare earths in say electric battery and those kind of things. So how to make them more efficient? So India has a lot of rare earths, for example, but we need to improve better methods of utilizing them and extracting them from nature. Then things that are related to say biomanufacturing. So that's where a lot of focus on synthetic biology is, like how to use say microbes to make chemicals which are otherwise very difficult to make or need a lot of industrial steps which are very polluting from the environment. So all these kind of things which have a good effect on the economy, on the environment, make that your focus and try to maximize your impact on them.
Thank you very much, sir, that you gave us the time.
Okay.
Really grateful that you gave us time.
Okay, you are welcome.
And you shared your experience. Thank you, sir.